You have found the In the Verse podcast. Songwriting inspired by pop culture media. With your hosts, Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason.
Welcome to In the Verse, the podcast that makes music inspired by popular media. My name is Marc Gunn, the creator of the Firefly Drinking Songs show.
And I'm Mikey Mason, creator of the Beer Powered Time Machine podcast and currently the MIKEYtalks podcast.
This is episode 2 of our new 10-season episode of the In the Verse podcast.
And since we ran out of episodes of Firefly to discuss and write about, heavy sigh, big tear, we'll be finding inspiration in episodes of other media, TV shows, comic books, cartoons, and though I've mentioned it, probably not video games.
Yeah. You keep dreaming on that one. But as always, you can support us in this and other creative endeavors by supporting Mikey at patreon.com/Mikey Mason.
And by supporting Marc at patreon.com/Celtfather.
Upcoming shows. Don't have a whole lot going on for myself this month. November 28th, I'm at Gigabyte's Tabletop Cafe. I think it's in Marietta, Georgia, and it is going to be a Firefly Drinking Songs show.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, and every Wednesday is Coffee with the Celtfather. That's on all the channels, though it will stop, I think, mid-December, finish up season 9.
Ooh, wow. All right. I have my monthly online shows still going. November's monthly online show is set for Friday, November 19th, 8 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/Comedy Rock Geek. December's date hasn't been set yet, and I won't be back at conventions until January. That's my next date for conventions.
Yeah, I don't know when my next convention is. I haven't even looked at 2021 yet, or 22.
Yeah, I just got used to writing one.
Right, I know it. I'm still, as far as my personal news, I'm still mailing out stuff for Selcouth. All the stuff is here, and I've been packaging it up and slowly mailing it out. I'm going to do some more mailings today. But then my Patreon, I did some updating. Mikey, I listened to what you did for your Patreon page and how you've been promoting it at shows.
I've been infectious.
You are, man. You are infectious. I love stealing, learning things from people, not stealing, learning. But I basically have, I finished the Blink song that we did. I did a couple weeks ago, and I've been playing it constantly at shows, and it's been going over great. And, this past weekend I was at Conjuration and someone said, "So is that on a CD? Which CD is that on?" And I was like, "Nope, it's on my Patreon. I guess I'm going to have to sign up for your Patreon." I was like, "Yes, you are."
I'm telling you what, I'm not going to talk business here, but yes, smart move, Marc Gunn. You got to keep some stuff in reserve. And I'm not, I'm sitting on way too much stuff in reserve. You got to keep some of it in reserve.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily thinking about it that way, but it's like I have a CD that's coming out, and I love it too. I'm playing all those songs too, and that's exciting, something different. This is very different from the way I've typically done things, but I came to realize though that sometimes there's all these songs there's some songs that we put out on this podcast. A lot of them I've really enjoyed. I think there's at least one I know that I hated, and I don't have to put it out anywhere but here. And if there's other songs that I'm playing, I can say, hey, if you want to hear it, you want to download it, you can go to Patreon. And I think it's just a nice service to offer for patrons who are supporting your music anyway. So I think it
absolutely is. And I'll tell you, there are songs that are they're good songs, but they're off brand.
Yes,
I don't think I've put out any song on my Patreon since I've been doing a song a week since September 19th, 2019. I don't think I've done a single song that I didn't like. I've not put out a single song that I put out a lot of them that weren't, quote, on brand for Mikey Mason. But that's what Patreon's there for. These are, I get to spread my wings. Everybody gets to taste, all of the all of the stuff that I cook up in the secret lair here. And then when I, go for official releases, they've already got the demos or the early releases of that. So that's the value of Patreon. And also, doing all the songwriting and putting this stuff back, I can organize stuff into albums, say this would make a good album if I want to put an album out. This needs to go out as a single. I've been playing it a lot and people love it. So on. So anyway.
Exactly. And these are the ones that you officially release, and, I do want to get the Blink officially recorded. I am still working on that to getting a good solid recording to release. But in the meantime, it's a great way of demoing stuff, like you say, or releasing full length singles as it is. So, yeah.
So we've been on a big Patreon tangent. So let's finish up our ad. You get when someone subscribes to your Patreon, what do they get, Mark?
Oh my gosh, so much. So you get, I'm putting out a free MP3 just about every week. And these are usually songs from my Pub Songs and Stories podcast. But then I also I release my Pub Songs and Stories podcast to people and my Kilt Father podcast to people. I have a Stories from the Road podcast I release. I occasionally do some videos as well. But there's a lot of content that I put out every week. And then, of course, it also supports my Coffee with the Kilt Father show that I do every week. So, yeah, lots.
And therapy for one of your $2.
Right. Exactly. And therapy for my daughters.
I pay attention at your shows.
Thank you.
My Patreon patrons still get a new song every Monday, 52 songs a year for as little as $1 a month, though you're perfectly welcome to pledge more if you want and can afford to. And, of course, the MIKEYtalks podcasts, and there are other rewards for higher tiers. But the base thing is $1 a month, $12 a year, 52 songs a year, and I put out way more than that on my Patreon because I'm bad at hiding things. I'm like, if I'm like, I'll put that back and wait and release it next week, then 3 months later I'm like, I didn't release the thing. Oops.
Right.
Anyway, there you go. Let's get into quick. We've been doing a plot synopsis because today we are talking about the 1977 Rankin Bass classic animated movie, The Hobbit, right?
Yes, indeed.
And this was done by Rankin Bass Studio to appear on NBC. This was a TV movie. It has dramatic pauses and commercial breaks, etc. But summarizing the plot of The Hobbit seems like a huge undertaking and
really does.
With almost no practical payoff, because you either know the story of The Hobbit or you should probably pause the episode and go remedy that, right? So we're going to skip the summary this week. But if for some reason you haven't seen the 1977 classic animated movie, The Hobbit, you can take this opportunity to pause the episode and go fix it, okay?
Yeah. This is definitely would contain some spoilers. So.
Yes.
Although again, is 1977 considered spoilers at this point in time?
Different people have different views, and I'm not going to yuck their yum on it.
Right, exactly. So The Hobbit was very inspirational for me in particular. I don't know about you, but I saw it they showed it to me in the 6th grade, and it just changed my world. After that, I got into Dungeons and Dragons, eventually Renaissance festivals. I connected with this movie a whole lot. Eventually I started reading the Lord of the Rings and the book, The Hobbit, by J.R.R. Tolkien, which we didn't mention he's the author of the original series.
Who?
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Never heard of him. Is he related to George R.R. Martin?
No, different guy. But this was the thing that got me into Hobbits and Lord of the Rings and whatnot. And it was just monumentally important in my life.
Yeah. I saw it. I saw it on NBC.
Did you really?
I'm a little older than you, Mark. And I don't know. Am I older than you?
No,
I don't know.
No. Next year I turn half a century.
I'm younger than you. Okay. Well, No, next year I will turn half a century. This year I will turn 49. So, yeah, wow. I'm a little younger than you, but not much.
A little baby Mikey.
But this was a seminal movie for me as well, because we saw it on TV, and then we had the read along 45 RPM record.
Cool.
And I had a storybook that had the art in it as well. As a child, that I would buy it and have it now, except that I have a problem with hoarding, so not really hoarding anymore, but I mean, I'm trying to, have less stuff.
Right.
But The Hobbit was, and when I say it's a seminal work, I mean it's a seminal work. When you look at the style, the animation style of The Hobbit, finding a predecessor to that is almost impossible, because Rankin Bass, of course, did all of the holiday specials, a lot of the stop motion claymation specials, but they were working with Topcraft, putting out Saturday morning cartoons, right? And Topcraft is eventually they dissolved in the early 80s, and then some of the people involved with Topcraft went on to form Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but huge anime company, Ghibli. And so, I mean, this is by people who were like foundational in anime, in Japanese animation. And it was, the art was based on the art. They saw a guy who did some illustrations for a story, a chapter that's got published in a magazine. They liked his work. His name was Harry Abrams, I think, and I could be completely wrong on that. No,
that's correct. That's the illustrated table. No, you know what?
No, he
the
in
visual
Children's
style
Digest
took its cue from early illustrations by Arthur Rackham.
Well, I know Arthur Rackham and his influences, but the Harry Abrams, they saw Harry Abrams' story in Children's Digest. He illustrated Riddles in the Dark, that chapter. And so if you Google that, you can get the earliest predecessor to Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit. You can Google that and find the actual illustrations and the first sketch that eventually became Gollum.
Huh.
And it's there. It was in Children's Digest, and Rankin and Bass literally said, "We want you to do design work for this," and then they took that design work and they gave it to Topcraft, and Topcraft had their animators work with it, and they came up with something that was so different from what had come before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is literally visually different. Trying to find something that looks like that came before The Hobbit, I haven't been able to find it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I haven't been able to find it. So if you know what it is, let me know. It's just perfect. It's beautiful. And when I say perfect, I mean it's perfect for what they wanted. You talked about Dungeons and Dragons. When I first started playing Dungeons and Dragons in 1983, this is what I saw in my head. I mean, I saw this artwork, this Topcraft artwork. This was what it should have been. And then that was later, artists like Jeff D went on and changed my perceptions of what it would be. But this was just, it's fantastic anime, even though a lot of people say that it's kind of cheap animation, but artistically it's beautiful. Now, granted, they could have put more frames in or whatever, I guess. Yeah. But, I mean, just from a design standpoint, it's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. It is, and foundational for everything that's going to come afterwards. So, and then they had Glenn Yarborough doing soundtrack, or some of the soundtrack. And this cast that's just, I mean, like John Huston, Angelica Houston's dad, the voice of Gandalf is just, and then I don't know if you knew who Brother Theodore was or is. Well, he was, but he was the voice of Gollum. And I read a lot of horror magazines, so I knew who Brother Theodore was. And then Thurl Ravenscroft, the voice of the Grinch, right? Was that the Grinch? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the he was one of the goblins and did the singing voices of the goblins. And then, I mean, like the guy who played Paladin on TV's Paladin, he was Smaug, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the huge scope of cast of this was just friggin' amazing. Don Messick played, he's the voice of Scooby-Doo. You know Don Messick, even if you don't know his name. And he was a dwarf, and I think maybe the Elf King, and an eagle,
Balin.
And yeah.
He was Balin and Lord of the Eagles, yeah.
And so, I mean, like, just the sheer amount of talent, and it all just wrapped up into this, and it was just for a TV movie. It was just a TV movie. But back then, television was a developing and dominant media, something that streaming services like Hulu and Apple TV and Netflix are bringing back.
Right.
So anyway, yeah. This, I don't know. I watched it. I rewatched it. I swam in nostalgia for a while.
Yeah.
And then I rewatched it again with whiskey.
I should have done that.
I don't know. So what are your takeaways from watching it?
It was first of all, again, I nostalgia hit me pretty strongly too, but it was really interesting watching it this time because I was looking at it again. When I watch something, usually I just watch it for fun. You know, I don't analyze what I'm watching. So I've never done that before. I've never even done much analyzing of Lord of the Rings or any of this stuff. I just love the stories, and I think it's just a compelling story. So when I was watching it this time, or at least the second time, my second rewatch for this podcast, I was watching it with the idea of what's it about, and it doesn't have to be what's the Hobbit book about or the movie. It's not about that. It's about what is this particular thing about. And I thought it was a really interesting way to look at it. And one of the things that I feel like I should have watched at least one more time because there was less involvement with the music when I was listening to it, when I was watching it too. So, obviously Glenn Yarborough had the song, The Greatest Adventure.
Yeah.
So my thought was I want to avoid, originally when I started watching it, I was like, I want to avoid this influence, because what is this story about? Well, it's an adventure, obviously, but then is that going to cloud my judgment about what the actual story is about? Or is that this story that this is about? And I'll be honest, the idea of writing a song about, an adventure, I love the concept and the word adventure, but I don't know if I feel like a story has the emotional impact that personally, I guess I have with that idea. So I was like, I don't want to use that. So I was ignoring the music to a large degree. Although until the end, when I started hearing the music being used to emphasize a point, which I thought was really neat thing that they did. And I know they did it earlier on, but it was really at the end that I noticed that. So that's where my mind got started, was how it. How to approach this. And so again, I was looking for the story behind it. How about yourself?
I found it, when one of the things that I have fallen prey to when I'm watching media specifically for In the Verse. So when I was watching Firefly for In the Verse, when I was watching Blink, last time for In the Verse, is that it's hard not to think ahead. You're looking for something that's going to inspire you to write a song, or that you can use to do as a foundation of a song. You're looking for lines, you're looking for themes, you're looking for whatever. And when you're watching a movie that is this heavily musical, you have to either give in and let it influence you.
Right.
Or try to ignore it altogether.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm never going to be Glenn Yarbrough. I'm never going to be a member of the Limelighters. You know what I mean? I'm never going to have the history or the gravitas that Glenn Yarbrough has.
Or vibrato.
I'm never... I was in show choir, sir. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. I have to stop.
I take it back.
I have to stop. We're going to get a copyright strike. But you know, I'm not going to write The Greatest Adventure, which is a fantastic song.
Yeah.
I mean, although I wouldn't put that level of vibrato on it if I did it, but I'm a pop infected, you know, that's who I am.
Yep.
And he's a folk singer and is a very, very good one. And what he does is his style. And so anyway, the lyrics from most of the songs that are in The Hobbit were taken from the book, The Hobbit, because Tolkien loved to put music and songs and poems that were supposed to be songs, you know, that you don't know. You're not really sure how you were supposed to be singing that. You're not really sure what the melody was. You know, it was probably a drinking song somewhere that he was rewriting the lyrics to, because that's the way people did. You know, it's a lot of folk music does that. And so, but yeah, I didn't. I tried to ignore the music, and it's impossible. It's impossible to completely ignore the music because it's so entwined with the story, you know? So I had to, I know that when it comes to it, I will, because I haven't written a song yet, I know that when it comes to it, I will try and downplay the musical side of it and look at the other things. I mean, it's heavy. The other thing that really struck me is just, and, you know, I've already, you know, waxed rhapsodic about it, is the visual of it, the beauty, the sheer beauty, the line work, the color work, the palette that's used, even especially the backgrounds, you know, and, you know, you look at the forest of Mirkwood and there are faces in the trees, and you know, you're the faces of Mirkwood in the trees, and
or the death of the spiders or goblins when they start spinning around, you know.
Oh yeah, where it turns kaleidoscopic and it just spins. And so it's so visual. Or when Thorin shows up and he goes, "I am Gandalf. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me." You know, and the strobe and the zoom in and the shaking of the screen, and it's just so. I'm figuring that because it's really hard to capture that visual element in a song unless I do a song about the visual elements of the movie, which is possible. Or I would have to write a lot of imagery and try and capture in verse poetically that feeling, you know, which, I mean, I truly love. Even the color palette, the muted tones, they were just pitch perfect. Yeah. You know, there's almost nothing too bright in The Hobbit. Even Smaug is a muted red. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then people complain about Smaug having a cat's head, and I mean, they say he's a dragon with a cat's head, and people are weird about it. And I'm like, no. All right. So look, I know that this was animated in Japan, but in Chinese mythology, dragons were very leonine. They were very cat-like, very lion-like. And, you know, that's, you know, a short hop across a little bit of an ocean right there, an inlet, whatever. I don't know how far Japan is separated from China, but it's, you know, not as far as Florida is from California. So. Yeah. And not only that, but I mean, you saw How to Train Your Dragon. You have kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They played them up as cat-like, and dragons in general, maybe not visually, but the way they acted. So people are like, why does this dragon have a cat's head? And I'm like,
they do it. Most people, they do it either cat or dog.
I mean, I'm like,
that's the other thing.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. It's a dragon, whatever. I'm fine with it. So I know that I'm probably not going to rely heavily on the visuals, and I'm not going to rely on the music, which means I'm going to have to use dialogue or themes. Yeah. More than likely. That's
the other thing the other challenge that I immediately noticed is that, and I think we have to consider this when we get to like future episodes, if we do other movies, basically, is that each of these things are put together are basically like chapters or acts, acts of a play.
Well, they're a 3-act structure, yes.
Right, and you can pretty much write a song for each act because each act has its own theme as you're telling a story, and it's kind of, and sometimes it's easier to zoom in on an act to show, like, for instance, I think at the very beginning of the movie, a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit, and a hobbit hole, that means comfort, which I think at the very beginning it's showing that that comfort's about to be thrown out the window.
Sure, yeah.
You can have a theme right there, just that lays that all out.
They start that, and then the dwarfs show up, and it immediately becomes, chip the cups and crack the plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. I mean, right. But yeah, no, you're right. It absolutely foreshadows it. And hold on a second. I have to remove a cat from my room. I don't know if you can hear the cat, but I will be right. I'm not even going to edit this out.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'll keep.
Come here, buddy.
In fact, I probably have a cat here somewhere too. If I can go ahead and find my little toy for my cat, she can start playing fetch with me. But she's not here, so she's missing out. But that's probably for the best.
All right, I'm back. Cat ushered away.
Hey, okay. Don't worry, I get them entertained with another cat story.
Sorry, the dragon with a cat's body has been ushered away.
Very appropriate. Very appropriate.
So yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that it's completely valid because even television shows are written to a 3-act structure,
right?
And on any one of the shows that we've written about, we have at times zoomed in maybe as far as a single line of dialogue.
Right, yes.
So writing about, because we're looking for inspiration, and if we want to write about the comfort before the adventure, whatever it is, if we want to write about the foreshadowing, we can do that. That's what we're here for. So, I mean, obviously the biggest theme of there, I took 2 themes from the movie, 2 big themes, and these are only partly joking. One, everything wants to eat you.
There's a song right there, man.
I mean, everything they encounter except the elves want to eat them. Spiders,
I want to hear this song now, man.
Trolls. I mean, you are tasty, and everything wants to eat you. And the other theme is Gandalf is gonna save us. I mean, that's what happens. And if it's not Gandalf, it's a frickin' eagle, because they know Gandalf. And so the eagles saved him twice in The Hobbit. I mean, once in the trees from the goblins, and then once at the end of the Battle of 5 Armies. Gandalf showed up. It wasn't enough that Gandalf was there. You know what that means? Eagles. That's what it means. Don Henley shows up singing "Take It Easy." Oh, wait. No, that's a different... eagle. But I mean, seriously. But everything else that I saw through there were, kind of micro themes.
Yeah, I don't know. There's 2 things that stood out to me. One of which was when your heart needs lifting, think of pleasant things.
I loved that. And I almost sat down and started writing down everything he was muttering to himself.
Right, and there's several times throughout the story where he's like Bilbo takes a step back to think of pleasant things and to change the way you approach stuff. I guess actually there's another one here. Another one that struck me was greed.
Absolutely.
But that's a little too dark for what I would like to write. So I don't know if I can go for there. I did think about the idea of, there's some satire is long been a thing that I've always loved. And I love the line that at one point when they're talking about your kind will never understand. This is war. And Bilbo deadpans to the screen. Personally, I'd rather be back in Hobbiton. It's
right, dude.
Which I thought was,
right. That's one of the micro themes I was talking about. So, he's putting on the armor and he goes, "This is deucedly uncomfortable." Something like, "This is deucedly uncomfortable. I'm going to get a rash." But, and Thorin's like, "That was my grandfather's armor," and blah, blah, blah. But then, Thorin literally says, because Bilbo says, "My goal is to get captured as soon as possible." Right. And he's called a coward. And Thorin says, "Your kind will never understand war, Hobbit. This is war." And then, in the middle of the Battle of Five Armies, when the goblin shows up, and Thorin and the Elf King, who were at each other's throats and calling each other cheats and all these other horrible names, start acting like they're old friends and allies and we're brothers in arms, and they're like, we're going to vanquish the foe together. And Bilbo does an aside, "Thorin is correct. I simply do not understand war." And then on his deathbed, they were down to 7 dwarves of the original 13 that were left, and Bilbo's told that there are about to be 6 because he asked how's Thorin, and they're about to be 6, and so Gandalf takes him into the tent where Thorin's on his deathbed, and during that he apologizes for calling him a coward, but then he said, "And I was wrong. You did understand war. It was I who did not until now."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Bilbo says, "Farewell, King under the mountain." And that's a theme that really kind of pulled to me. I mean, more so, it would be funny to write Gandalf's gonna save us or everything wants to eat you.
Yeah, I know.
Everything wants to eat me. And riddles is another theme. Gollum, there was the riddle contest. Yeah. And then, when Bilbo's talking with Smaug said, "Enough with these riddles." But, there are 2 more things that really inspired me that I find inspiring, although I'd like, and I said it a second ago, I like the thought of literally taking down verbatim what Bilbo said in the movie, those things that were comforting him, and finding a way to make that a song. Yeah,
that does sound like fun. That sounds nice. And it's got the first thing that came to my mind was that these are a few of our favorite things, sound of music,
But I think it could, obviously I thought of that as well, but I think that it I don't know. It seems like the kind of thing that could just be a nice, I mean, it's even along the same, it is literally along the same theme as a few of my favorite things.
Right.
I mean, it's,
Right. But Hobbit style.
But it is Hobbited. So you might as well just do the parody. Anyway.
I'm not going there, but there is another theme that I didn't finish with, which was I'm feeling like is probably the way I'm going. Is facing your fears. So when I was finished the movie the second time, I sat down and I was like, I gotta say, be honest with myself that I'm a little bit scared writing this, because I've done, I have a full album of Hobbit songs, and I have another album of Lord of the Rings inspired music, and it's a little bit unnerving writing something about one of your treasure stories of your youth, that has so much nostalgia and so much love inside it. And so there's this little explosion of panic in my thing. Same as when we started the In the Verse podcast, when I was getting ready to write.
Are you saying you don't want to write about your precious?
I should include that in the song. But
Sorry.
I'm totally writing that down. I don't want to write about my precious. But when I started thinking about it, trying to think of it, and to really think about it on a deeper level, where you could think of it about, like, for instance, the dragon being a symbol of our fear. You know, as Bilbo is walking into Lonely Mountain, and you know, he's like, "Do I go further? Should I really do this?" This is one of the moments when they use that little piece of music to accentuate that moment of fear that he experiences. But throughout the movie, there's little bits where he's like, do I go see these trolls that are gonna eat me? And he's being afraid of the moment. The dragon definitely was the biggest one, though, because it was, even when he was talking about it. Where's that line? They were saying, that's back there. A mere thrush, and yet so much more. You have seen Smaug, and you know his vulnerable spot. I have heard that dragons are soft and vulnerable, especially in the regions of their chest. And I was sitting here thinking about one of the things that came to mind was modern media, news and such. And a lot of the news, it caters to fear. And as soon as one of the things that you have to step back from is the reason I don't watch the news. I don't read very little. I try to avoid most of that stuff, is because all it does is it accentuates the fear, and some stations are worse than others, but it accentuates that fear in people, and which lures you in. It makes you soft, but you can defeat it, and it's right there in the heart, you know. And I was like, well, that's very touching, you know. The spot to defeat the fear is right there in your heart, which I was like, oh, you know, it just really resonated on many levels with me.
Well, like, all right. So, and you're talking about the thrush and Bilbo Baggins, and then at the end, I don't know if you remember, when Gandalf is doing he's like summing up. He's standing there with Bilbo, and he's summing up here. And so the prophecies of old have come true. Smaug is gone, and the goblins driven away. The dwarves and elves live in peace, and the men thrive, multiply, and build a civilization. And Bilbo goes, prophecies? And Gandalf's like, what? And Bilbo goes, I had a hand in all that.
Yes.
And Gandalf has to put him in his place, and because he's like, you know, because all of a sudden Bilbo's, you know, kind of feeling the hero wagon, you know. Yeah. And Gandalf says, surely you don't disbelieve the prophecies because you helped bring them about. Mm-hmm. You don't really suppose, do you, that all your adventures and escapes were managed by mere luck just for your sole benefit? You're a very fine person, Mr. Baggins, and I'm very fond of you, but you are only quite a little fellow in a wide world, after all.
I mean, that doesn't resonate with the modern our modern stuff. I don't know what does.
Right, and we spend a lot of time putting ourselves on social media, trying to portray ourselves in a particular light, and we are all the heroes of our own stories. We're our own protagonists, right? But we are only a little fellow in a wide world. Mm-hmm. I mean, we really are. There were a couple things that I wanted, like ring on my finger. And he's talking about the ring on his finger, and then Gandalf said that story rings true. It has the ring of truth about it. I just like the silly little pun wordplay.
I know it.
And that plays into the whole riddles thing. The black arrow is just mentioned almost as an aside in the story, but you know, Bard says, Black Arrow, you've never failed me, and I've always recovered you. I had you from my father, and he from of old. If you ever came from forges of the true king under the mountain, go now and speed well. And And then, later on his deathbed, Thorin says, if more of us valued your ways, food and cheer above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world, but sad or merry, I must leave it now. And
that is one of my absolute favorite lines of this. That's the what is it? The engine, kicking a coal to the engine on Firefly. It's the moment where you're like, oh my God, that just touches my heart.
Yeah. You have a weird heart.
I guess the comparison is a bit weird.
There are two more things. I keep saying there's two. I'm just looking over my notes. The lucky number. Bilbo became the 14th instead of the 13th, and so he was the lucky number, and they refer to him as the lucky number later. But I think my favorite moment from the whole movie is when they are trying to walk through, is it the Mirkwood with the spiders?
Yes.
So they're walking through the Mirkwood with the spiders, and they send him up to scout above the tree line.
Was number 2 on my, that's the other one that really touched my heart too.
And he sees the butterflies and the sun, and he says, there are moments that can change a person for all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably what my song's going to be about.
Yeah, and yes, that's a good one. That's definitely one of my favorites too. Because again, that one really rang home for me. I did. There's another thing that I just noticing at the story of the Hobbit, which I thought, which I don't remember from reading, and now I feel like I gotta go back and read. But there's a moment when Gandalf says. He gives him some parchment and says, keep track of what goes further from here. And on the comedic side, I was noticing and then you can give it to me afterwards. I will study the map and point out your missteps.
Yeah.
So that was the
Gandalf, who sure would be glad if you were there to save us the whole time. Rather than just pointing out where we screwed up later.
That's one of the moments where I was like, okay, maybe that might, if I want to do a satirical song, there's something right there. And I think he has another one like that later on. Yeah. But the other thing that I thought was intriguing.
It's like Gandalf's not a hero. He's like your stepdad. He's like, I'll go over it later and show you where you screwed up.
Yeah, right. But the thing that also struck me there was that that is when the story turns to third person, where Bilbo is telling the story, which when I've noticed there's different in the Hobbit, the book, mm-hmm. there are different persons how it's approached, but I don't ever remember Gandalf saying, here's some paper, and let's turn this into third person, and tell the story.
I don't remember that either, but I do know,
which I thought was cool,
that this version of The Hobbit is so very close to the book. This is at least as close to the book as The Last Unicorn is to the book The Last Unicorn, which was also Rankin Bass and also done by Topcraft, with similar inspired animation. Obviously, The Last Unicorn was completely animation art-wise inspired and influenced by the work that was done on The Hobbit. But yeah. I don't remember that either.
Yeah, so I thought it was a nice explanation for the books, which, I have my own thoughts about the movies, which is I kind of look at that as like The Hobbit being the book of The Hobbit is like this is what the story that was told by Bilbo Baggins, whereas I always look at the movies as, this is what actually happened. And so, which I makes me feel good. I don't know if other people agree with that one, but still I like that approach, but it's just interesting to see that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think at this point we've talked. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna find. I feel optimistic. I don't know if I'm going to live up to the promises that I would have made to my 1977 self watching this on TV.
Yeah, I feel fearful.
But it's weird though, because
Right.
I mean, honestly, because it came out in November 27th, 1977. So,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
this is, we're approaching an anniversary,
Yeah.
and this is a thing where I would have never imagined when I was a kid that part of what I do for a living growing up would be to go back and watch this thing that influenced me so heavily as a child and then write a song about it. So this is kind of cool. This is very, very cool for me. So I'm excited to see how badly I screw it up. But I'm sure, Gandalf, you'll be there to point out my missteps.
I feel like that needs to be in the song somehow too.
So I don't know. You feel good about this? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. We'll make something.
All right, let's break and write songs and then put them in now.
There's a secret door to a hall unknown, inside of fears that turn me to stone. Do I step forward or head back home? Which is the path for me? I raise my head and take one step more. The ground that shakes, I look back to the door. Feel like I'm caught and stuck to the floor, and so I cut myself free. This world's a treasure that is full of strife. Every moment can enrich your life. Just face your dragons with the edge of a knife. It's a better life, you see. Come adventure with me. There are ugly goblins doing scary things. Deep down in dungeons there are magic rings. Live or die with the riddles we bring. You'll find your way through the dark. My precious life has so many memories. Fluttering birds, butterflies, and trees. My home is comfort, comfort is a breeze. But there's another way to live. This world's a treasure that is full of strife. Every moment can enrich your life. Just face your dragons with the edge of a knife. It's a better life, you see. Come adventure with me. Treasure that is full of strife. Every moment can enrich your life. Just face your dragons with the edge of a knife. It's a better life, you see. Come adventure with me. So many wars, it's an endless fight. To slay our dragons that soar through our night. But I'm no coward, I'll do what is right before I make my way home. Now I'm back with stories that ring, a truth that soars upon eagle wings. Let's not forget the songs elves sing. Oh, the joy that they bring. This world's a treasure that is full of strife. Every moment can enrich your life. Just face your dragons with the edge of a knife. It's a better life, you see. This World's a treasure that is full of strife. Every moment can enrich your life. Just face your dragons with the edge of a knife. It's a better life, you see. Come adventure with me.
And wolves and there's trolls, spiders in Mirkwood and Gollum in holes, Balrogs and bearmen and barrow white souls, and everything wants to eat you. Everyone wants you dead. You're so tender and small and lacking all training in war, and you've no armor at all, no weapons to wield, and what's more, there are orcs and there's goblins and wolves and there's trolls, spiders in Mirkwood and Gollum in holes, Balrogs and bearmen and barrow white souls, and everything wants to eat you. Everyone wants you dead. There are elves and there's goblins and wolves and there's trolls, spiders in Mirkwood and Gollum in holes, Balrogs and bearmen and barrow white souls, and everything wants to eat you. Everyone wants you dead.
As you know, Mikey and I make our living as full-time musicians. We love creating our music for you, but it would be near impossible to release as much great music and podcasts if it wasn't for the generosity of people just like you.
So if you enjoyed this show, please support the things you love. Your generosity pays for the production and promotion of our music and this podcast.
I am extremely grateful to everyone who supports my Gun Runners Club on Patreon. You are all so generous with your support, and thanks to our newest patrons, expat fledgling Crory Dempsey, Ryan and Kelly Melville, and John Moda. I also want to thank each of these incredible patrons: Not Higgins, CJ Taylor, Melinda and Jeremiah West, Sarah Crockett, Bill Mandeville, William McCaskett, Brian Morin, Carol Burrill, Kurt Goodyear, Miranda Nelson, Jan Senkush, Luke Miller, Josh Brown, Laura Mae Sorkin, Scott and Melanie Weinhausen, Doris Lane, Alexis, James Odell, Eric Ray, Marie Alm, James Reagan, Les Howard, Carrie Whitney, Tim M. O'Brien, and Troy Rogers.
And I want to say thank you to my amazing patrons who help keep my music being made, especially Oops Wrong Cookie, Amy Stewart, Michael Candlewall, Josh Logan, Amy Morris, Les Howard, Brian Jackie, John Height, John R. Woolard, Scott Mealy, Randy Brown, Robin Abbas, Scott and Melanie Weinhusen, Jeremy D. Jackson, and Jennifer Lewis. Thank you so very much.
So next time we are going back to Doctor Who. I don't think I've seen The War Doctor, but that is the episode we're going to be watching and writing a song about, and I would like you to go watch it too. You know
just got homeworked.
You just got homeworked. Go, be ready for this so you can be a part of the experience, though we will give the summary for that episode. Well, thank y'all so much. We'll talk to you later. Sláinte. And thank you so much for listening. You can download many of our songs when you sign up on our Patreon pages. Find out more about Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason, how to support our music on Patreon.
We'd love your comments, your suggestions, songs, or lyrics, or links to videos to share in the next show. Use the hashtag #InTheVerse. You can post them on the Blue Sun Tour Facebook page or email me at Mikey@MikeyMason.com.
In the Verse was produced by Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason. Sign up on our website and find out more about the Blue Sun Tour when it happens at FireflyDrinkingSongs.com.